Yes, I'm a king, go I think I'm a king, go.
The colonial architecture of power destroyed African empires that were growing towards macro, and created the idea of a micro-native who could not own a land to produce on, who could not own sheep, goats, cattle. They even stole them from the Khoisan. And then you were confined to a rondavel and a little productive area. If you were a nomadic pastoralist, you were confined to a narrow area, mostly non-arable, and where you couldn't live. You were put into rural areas. Some people were put into urban areas. The urban was only to be accessed by Africans and black people if they were in the service of white interests. And then if you were brownish, not totally black, you were on the periphery of the urban, mostly where the sun hits you in the eye when you are going home and hits you in the eye when you are coming to work. Where the affluent or effluent or the wastage from industry flows to, Somadare, Korogosho, the slums in Kenya are not an accident of geography or poor planning. Nor is Kaelisha, King Williamstown, and etc. The Islamization and pauperization of people, who you want to be close to, the ground you wish to be close to, is a product of geospatial planning by particular forces and factors of production. What culture, what language, what education, what opportunities you were able to access were based on Eurocentric constructs of what you were entitled to or the place you were assigned to as a black or brown person. But it also determined your socio-economic imagination, what you could imagine. So our parents wanted us to be nurses and teachers, not industrialists. Why nurses and teachers? Because the architecture of the colonial economy preserved a special place for the most elite amongst us to become premier servants of white capital, the elite of labor, and not the elite of leisure or leisure. You, my friends, represent a modern version of that elite of labor. It is not the poor people that need liberation, it is you. You are sleepwalking. Wake up. So, your children go to school, come out with degrees, even masters and PhDs, knowing absolutely nothing. They neither have the skill nor the capacity to transform the reality of the oppression that has bounded their people for generations. You know why? The little money that you have, you are investing in constructing literate ignorance. The black intellectual is grassroots in global intellectualism. The black capitalist is grassroots in global capital. They are mere clients or proxies. You are considered most educated if you can quote the most erudite scholars from the Ivy League or Oxbridge schools, but you are not considered knowledgeable if you have an understanding of how to construct solutions for your own societies that are not based on reproducing stupid and silly legal categories of organization, of ethics, and of governance. I am a lawyer. I have practiced law. So for all those lawyers who think the world will fall apart if we don't have boards, courts, constables, and etc., I have good news for you. Braithwaite and Browse, some Pacific scholars suggest that they are model missionaries and model mercenaries. Model missionaries are those people who imbibe the model so much and their inferiority so completely that they believe a model that has never worked in its place of origin will work somehow by inorganic fixation in the environment. They are total believers, converts. They are waiting for the heaven of regulation. If regulation constitutions could save countries, America would be saved, France would be saved. What we're seeing with the rise of the right, what we're seeing in America with the reductionism, relativism, and etc., tells us that regulation alone cannot save society. Society needs another premise of salvation, of liberation, and of freedom. You cannot, they say in the Shona language, be copying the notes of a dunderhead. The idea that links knowledge to race, knowledge to class, knowledge to geography is what you must disrupt. You cannot be liberated on the premise of regurgitation. You cannot be liberated on the promise of cramming. You cannot be liberated on the promise of acquisitive mimesis, or trying to emulate. You cannot be liberated by, you can wear a suit, speak with the most fine French or English or Portuguese accent. You can even know the names of the cities and streets in London, in Lisbon and elsewhere. You could have gone to the finest Ivy League places and schools. But my brothers and sisters, the fact of the matter is you are in those premises, no matter how well positioned or placed, and I'm reasonably well positioned in global philanthropy, you are merely a native in the service of the empire. And sometimes, when we become elevated, such as some of us have become, you start getting delusions and illusions of grandeur that somehow you can save your people from themselves. I want to suggest to you that you are the one who needs salvation. So you will bring us to these resorts so that our friends from Europe and elsewhere can, after the menial business of attending our conferences and leaving a few dollars, go on safari to see the big five. You don't even sell our countries as places of knowledge. You don't sell our countries as places of innovation. You sell them as places of things that naturally occur, like flora and fauna. You confirm the Hegelian version of history that says Africa is not a place of history, or the notion that the native is in everything else an infant, but in vice or crime. So your advocacy focuses on corruption. Your advocacy focuses on ethics, because you have been led to believe that the sole problem with your people is they are unethical. Who persuaded you this? Men and women who took and turned into property your kith and kin, made them work on plantations, as though working for free under oppressive conditions was not enough, raped them, produced children, separated them from their mothers. Men and women who took everything, took land, took cattle. Men and women who actually in 2023 have the audacity to come and say, we apologize for the indiscretions of colonialism, but we will not make repair. Why? Because the body of the black person is worth no more than pity. Because black people have themselves, in asserting themselves in the world, never seen the question of equality and equity as the premise of negotiation. You Africans are disgusting because you come at the table. Save us from our tyrants. We don't mind being oppressed by you because you speak well and you have good high-rise buildings. I went to law school when an African practice became renamed alternative dispute resolution. Did you hear what I said? I went to law school when an African practice of resolving conflict was renamed alternative dispute resolution, and people had PhDs. They even set up a global ADR center, and the Africans had not yet institutionalized their practice and their way of life. They were still learning how to do antagonistic resolution of disputes when they had already internalized over centuries alternative dispute resolution. I started teaching at law school when an African practice of resolving conflict was renamed transitional justice. And people are getting PhDs in what? Transitional justice. I have a friend called Becky Moyo, with whom we worked in late 2009, 2010, when we were describing an African practice that's based on living life in solidarity, living life in mutuality, living life to humanize the other. And suddenly he needed to make sense to the white friends that he had from the global north and the funders. So the young man comes to me and said, I have an idea. I said, what is your idea? He said, you know, we need to set up something called African philanthropy. I said, that's nonsense. Well, we are here. It's called African philanthropy. This conference was called so that we say to each other, stop sleepwalking. Movement is not gathering a group of people, mimicking and echoing the same language. Movement is gathering a group of people who see liberty and the pathways to liberty, not, as Audre Lorde said, by using the master's tools, but who say the path that's walked is not our path. I told Becky Moyo and Tendai Mrisa that my grandfather took me to his farm. I had just been made a partner in a law firm, largely white law firm, and I was complaining about injustice and this, and I wasn't sure how I would rise because I was not known to anybody. And he took me and addressed me by my totem. We were standing on the edge of a bush, a forest, and he said in my Shona language, my son, the forest has no doorway. Every hunter enters where they do. The determinant is what they bring back. Many of you are trying to enter this forest of transformation using pathways and doorways used by others. The flora and fauna is exhausted on those pathways. Find new pathways into this forest of global transformation. The very fact that a few of you are talking about climate and you are using colonial language of loss and damage, and I keep telling people loss is something that occurs as a result of no one's fault. But if I come and take your bag, my sister, it's not loss. You get it? Yeah. So damage is something that occurs accidentally. If I come and break your window, it's not damage. It's breakage. How are you told? You know, it's like some thieves in Harare. They stole something from one of my companions. So I went, hey! They said, Blas, talk nicely. You know, the thieves in Harare tell you to talk nicely in order to get back what is yours. The global thieves tell you to talk nicely if you want your things back. My friends, sitting in this room, you are beneficiaries of mass struggles. You are not owners and riders of mass struggle. You are beneficiaries. It is not you empowering the people. The people have empowered you to be known internationally. The people have empowered you to have voice, to have a salary. The people have empowered you to be invited to diplomatic dinners. The people have empowered you to be invited to OSF, Ford, and etc. You're like a monkey in a cage. You are paraded as a sign, right? Have you ever been to a zoo? Have you ever seen animals in the zoo? Today I've come to say, unlock the door of the zoo. Because that zoo you are in does not make you a real tiger, a real lion, a real monkey, a real... You are only entertainment for those who have power. Have you ever seen people playing so close in the wild to a tiger or a lion? Have you seen them? The fact that they come to the zoo and even touch tiger, it's you. That's why you can be invited to every conference. You are tame. What am I saying? Diakumba used to say to me, avoid political, social, and epistemological placebos. Placebos are those things you give your children. They say, I'm ill. You know the child is not ill. Just give them something that looks like medicine. Afterwards, they are fine. So this psychological props to the system of domination, the myth of an inclusive society. Black masses need to organize independently for their own. African philanthropy, East African philanthropy needs to organize independently for the liberation of East Africa. The system of definition uses justifications and myths. You are the model missionaries and model mercenaries, but you could also become the biggest disruption. You know, I like Africans. Technology came, they said, oh no, in order to, we need technology. You know, and Philip will tell you, I used to say to him, no, we don't need technology. We need to own and create technology. Can I repeat that? You are no more empowered because you have an iPhone. Even if it's iPhone 20 and you are using it and you know how to be on Kindle and those things. You are just a high-end consumer with very little power. You don't determine the content, you don't determine the gadget, you determine nothing. In fact, what happens, your wealth and the wealth of your children is being spent buying gadgets so that you can consume some more of the rubbish that's produced everywhere else, and the disinformation and the misinformation. Technology offers this sector a space. You can't, as single organizations, invest in technology, but as a collective, you can invest in the development of technology. I'm sorry, you have to monetize it all. Otherwise, you develop it, a private firm will come, take it, sell it for billions, they become billionaires, and you become famous. Africans and fame. May God save us from fame, and our ancestors do. There is no single white or Chinese or Asian production on this continent that's created value in urban Africa. Most of the values, they go to the rural areas, extract natural gas, extract flora and fauna. You are complying. You are telling your people, leave the rural area. Come and be Mamamboga in the... When they've left the rural area, they've left it for who? For those who are coming to find critical minerals, who are trying to set up solar factories, solar. My friends, I don't know who bewitched you, but today I came to say to you, please step out of this witchcraft moment where you repeat urbanization. 75% of Africans will live in urban areas. It's repeated until we believe it, until we affirm it and start preparing for it. Why are Africans living in urban areas? Because we have enforced through policy rural stagnation. Why have we enforced through policy rural stagnation? Because there are very few minerals under the city of Nairobi. Right? Other than Johannesburg, most mineral wealth in our countries is found in rural areas. That's why we need Africans out of rural areas so that they can come and live in slums, so that we can now be running philanthropy to give them water, to give them wash services, to give. And we feel we have empowered them. Give land to our people, make our people productive, create factories for our people, give them resources to set up technology manufacturing firms. My friends, I hope I have insulted you because it was my intention to, but I hope I have also encouraged you because it is the accidental view that when you insult, you encourage. You are the greatest Africans that have ever lived, greater than Nkrumah, greater than Cabral. Nkrumah did not know what you know. Nkrumah did not have the sort of access to this continent and its different parts that you have. Nkrumah did not have access to libraries and to knowledge and to the range and diversity of Africans that you have. Nkrumah did not have the number of African friends that you have. It is a tragedy that having so many friends, being part of such a great network, when you come to these conferences, you spend half your time saying, I'm the executive director of this. Oh, so who are you with? I'm with this. Those are mere post boxes. You are not a post box. If in this conference all you've done is traded business cards and emails and phone numbers so that you can touch each other on WhatsApp, then it's a betrayal of why Evans brought us here. Evans brought us here so that we answer, how do we build movements? We build it through complementarity of our different skills. We build it through diversity of our different passions. We build it by beholding how the whole system of oppression affects us at the same time differently, but requires that we press it at the same time differently in order to move, not the needle. We are no longer moving needle. We have to move the pillars. Otherwise, if you keep on moving needles, the pillars will solidify. My friends, you are such awesome and great geniuses. You are such unbelievable advocates. But unfortunately, you have become addicted to narratives of the empire about shifting money. Money does not shift power. You want to know why? The empire is getting you to play lotto. Each one of you think you will win. You scratch a couple of numbers, and you wait for the win. Who makes money when you play lotto? The owner of the lotto. Who's making money when you do what you are doing, saying philanthropy? The owners of philanthropy. Who's determining the direction of philanthropy? Who's determining the nature of funding of philanthropy? Who's determining the shifts in philanthropy? Who's determining the engagement of global power philanthropy? Who's determining these things? It is not you. You are asking for voice. Voice. Can you pinch yourself and just say, wake up? Voice. I was in Dubai once, and I was telling, I think my sister at the back there, I was in Dubai once, and my friend was on the 90th floor, and I was whistling, because in our village I would whistle, they would hear me. So I was, I thought they would hear me. They did not hear me. Then I started shouting, "Hey, Diva! It's Brayo!" They did not hear me. That's your voice when it's facing the structure of global power. You can whistle, you can shout, until you build an alternative building, or you enter and disrupt that building and the alarm goes on. Your voice projects are a betrayal of the revolution and transformation that we need. You are the placebo that our people have been taking. So since the timekeeper told me 10 minutes ago that I was done, and I am like all good speakers, I don't know when to stop when I finish. Thank you.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king.